Most people have a favorite place on this planet. I certainly think that this is one of mine. The last time I came here was 12 years ago, on my way by boat to Vienna. Of course, the willow tree was a little smaller then, but not much. Otherwise, the place hasn't changed at all. It's always peaceful here, and the waters of the Saone are limpid, though perhaps a little chilly. My son Jason and his beautiful wife Kate and I took a day off voyaging to relax. It's really an astonishingly calming spot. Jason, more energetic than I, went for a swim.
Come on in, the water's lovely.
Always larking about, he tried to fool Kate there was a fierce current. So there it is, my favorite willow. The great tide of medieval culture reached its peak in the 12th century, when 3 great abbeys and a cathedral were founded right up the middle of Burgundy: Cluny, Vezelay, Fontenay, and Autun. Cluny to the south was the biggest church ever constructed in Christendom until St. Peter's in Rome was rebuilt. The abbey became hugely rich and subsequently corrupt. It was sacked in the wars of religion. During the French Revolution, Cluny was bought by an enterprising property speculator from Mâcon, who sold the abbey off as building materials. Even so, what remains today is vast and impressive. Further north and in the middle of the 3 abbeys lies Vezelay, built on a hill for defensive purposes. It's called La Colline Éternelle, or the Eternal Hill. It certainly feels like it when you're walking up it. Many of the crusaders set out from here on their way to the Holy Land. It's long been a place of pilgrimage and inspiration. St. Francis of Assisi liked it so much that he founded a branch of his order here. These capitals on the tops of the columns are carved with such skill that they look as though they weigh an ounce or two instead of hundreds of pounds. All sorts of grim and also charming biblical scenes are there to inspire the worshipper, whose attention might have drifted during the service. The cathedral at Autun has stood here in its various forms for well over 1,000 years. The Rollin family were great benefactors of the cathedral. Upstairs amongst their legacy are some charming depictions of the Nativity story. The flight into Egypt, the 3 kings all fast asleep being visited by the angel. The gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh are presented to the baby Jesus. The Abbey of Fontenay lies to the north of the others. It's my favorite abbey by far. Founded in the 12th century by St. Bernard, it became very prosperous. The monks here were Cistercians. They made everything themselves. Over the years, they specialized in metalwork of all sorts. The British sacked the abbey in the 16th century. During the French Revolution, it was sold off as a paper mill. The family Montgolfier of balloon fame agreed to restore Fontenay to its former state. It's wonderfully calm here, and I felt I could almost touch the peace that seeps from the old stones and the quiet trees. The gently splashing fountains from which the abbey gets its name lulled me into a state of delicious nirvana. In the country in France, or France profonde as the Parisians call it, most shops are shut on Monday. That's how I discovered this retreat. Someone in the village had told me that I could get lunch here at a big communal table. Well, I thought I could cope with that. As I walked through the enormous park towards food, the place began to grow on me. I started to feel humble and respectful, as one should at places like these, marveling at the wisdom and work that had gone into the grounds. When I got inside, I found out what communal meant. A party of female retreatees had raised the decibel level to only just sustainable limits. Clearly not a member of an order of silence, these ladies had retreated here for a week to wash away their woes. As I munched the cheap and excellent lunch, I mused about the heads of the kings and queens on the tops of the pillars. I'm a bit hard of hearing, said this jolly monk. He told me that the cheese they make at his monastery was a runaway success, and they didn't even have to advertise it. Cheese production has become our principal source of revenue. Feeling that I should say something in keeping with his calling, I said it must be the work of the good Lord. He makes the grass grow, was the monk's brisk response. We do the rest. I asked him what sort of red wine one should drink with his cheese. A good red, he said, a corton. This is a fountain depicting St. Nicholas, the patron saint of all mariners. What is curious about it is the crying wolf on the top of St. Nicholas. According to legend, the wolf had rabies. He's crying because he just couldn't help himself eating children. Le train grand vitesse, or high-speed train, brought my dear daughter Sabine and her boyfriend Casper to see me for a few days, about halfway down the Canal de Bourgogne at Montbard. Thanks to the tunnel under the English Channel, France is much more speedily accessible than it used to be. Sabine is a survivor of many of my voyages. When she was 8, she prepared 25 postcards and stamped them all ready for posting. Gazing at them, well satisfied, a gust of wind blew the lot into the canal, where they sank without trace. I'm not sure she's ever got over the trauma. I went to have a quick chat with Madeleine and pick up the latest news. Physical progress may be slow, but gossip flies up and down the canal like the wind. I don't know what she was thinking about, but I bet it was food. Fresh air usually makes visiting townies ravenous. After a comprehensive search of my galley, Sabine went on deck to cook up an unconventional sauce for some pasta, as we had guests coming.
The courgette that I burned. I think it's still with us.
Sabine, I have to say the sauce is quite delicious, especially when you come across an apricot or a bit of salami. It's delicious, absolutely delicious. What a beautiful houseboat.
As we finished Sabine's lunch, the Horizon 2, the richest hotel barge on the canal, came past. I decided to see how the rich live at the captain's next stop. You really do have to be well-heeled to afford to lie in these beds at thousands of dollars a week. In the next-door village, the Horizon 2 gets its bread and pastries from Mr. and Mrs. Besson's patisserie.
Aujourd'hui, nous allons peindre les petits
Louisa Besson, like Anne Baxter, would put in the profession box on her passport, star. Her métier is making edible decoration for cakes at banquets, weddings and baptisms, etc. She explains that she has a small compressor and an airbrush, but she is one of the few people who can spray these doves without them all going blotchy. Lots of people try it, but it turns out to be a disaster. You have to keep a good distance away with a sprayer to keep the paint nice and even. She told me she made turtles, doves, frogs, flowers, and even the Holy Mother and Child.
Bien chauffé, et ça demande un certain temps.
The green stuff in her hands is a special kind of molding sugar. It has to be warm before you can shape it. You push the two halves of the mold together to get an impression firmly.
Là, c'est assez facile, mais c'est pas toujours facile comme ça. Parce que ça,
Imagine the force in those forearms. Louisa has published a book starring herself. That's pretty simple, she says, but it's not always as easy as that. And now for Louisa's finale. She blows up this ball of green sugar. It's magnificent, she says. I got the timing just so, when the sugar was exactly the right temperature. She freely admits she's one of the few people in the world who can achieve this. Puino has two famous treasures. One is its canal tunnel, which is frankly just like any other tunnel, except that you go through it on a boat. And the other is Mr. Diaz. I feel I have a great deal in common with Mr. Diaz, for he, like me, finds it hard to keep things looking shipshape. It's not to say that he doesn't know where everything is, he does. It's just that it looks so chaotic to the visitor. I was brought up at the height of the British Raj in India, where, I am now very ashamed to say, everything was picked up and put away for me. Ever since, I've always had the most terrible problems with tidiness. Whenever I start to put things in order, I get distracted and start to read the book I was putting away on the shelf. But Mr. Diaz is truly an expert in apparent chaos. You might think this emporium was a junk shop, but not at all. He has a catalogue with the new price for everything. If you choose something to buy and you actually manage to get to the cash desk, it takes him a good 15 minutes to find the item in the well-dog-eared catalogues. No computer bugs for Mr. Diaz. However, if you do need a 6-foot metal cross or a horseshoe or a 19th century key blank, Mr. Diaz is your man. I purchased a shoe last for knocking the nails out of my shoes and a wire basket. I like the look of it, but have no idea what it's for, except possibly washing parsley.
Ah bon? Ça coûte 180 francs.
180, vraiment. Bon, excellent.
180 et puis 35.
Ça c'est 200.
215.
200.
Oui.
Oui. Ça c'est le 200.
200.
Et encore 5 francs.
215.
Ah oui, 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 vous avez raison. Vous avez raison, oui. Mine like a steel trap. I found myself sharing a lock with these intrepid Brits who'd hired a boat to barge their own way through Burgundy. Now, you're having a nice time?
We're having a wonderful time.
How long have you been on this boat?
9 days.
You've been through the tunnel?
Been through the tunnel.
Oh, you've been up to Puino?
Yes.
Yes, we nearly made Pont Royal. We didn't quite make that.
Did you like it up there?
Very pretty.
Very pretty.
Very, very pretty.
Yeah, I think it's the best part up there. You weren't worried about all those locks?
No.
We would like a few less, but it's not possible, obviously.
They're all drinking the gin and tonics, like it is all the time.
Burgundy is simply overflowing with good fresh food. Abundance is everywhere. From Macon Market in the south to the covered market of Saone in the north, there are literally hundreds of markets to choose from in Burgundy. Burgundians, like the rest of the French, want their produce fresh and cheap and will go to considerable lengths to get it. Cheese is my undoing. I find it hard to decide what to buy because I want lots of different things. From Parmigiano to goat cheese, they're all there to lure the shopper on. And of course, with the cheese and the other good things, it's impossible to go home without a bottle of good red wine. Chez Mémé is one of those wonderful restaurants which you stumble across from time to time. There's no doubt that hunger is the best cook, but here for $10 you get a meal to be reckoned with. These chubby chaps are called gougères, cheese puffs when they're at home. Pork stew bubbles away in a cauldron. With the gougère, pork stew, chips, salad and some cheese, a carafe of wine and some cheesecake, I felt I'd had my money's worth. This old French lady came in to eat here because she likes the company of men, God bless her. Here she is explaining to the men that although she's 80 years old, everyone says that when she puts on her makeup, she looks a lot younger. In the middle of the night, ungallantly cracks one of them. On Sunday afternoons by the river, the French often have a guinguette, or one of these dances. Yolande, a casual and courageous passer-by, agreed to chance her toes and take a turn or two with me on the floor. I've always been fond of dancing, but alas, I've never been good at it. When I was just out of the army after doing my national service, I found myself on the list. Now, this list was a roll of eligible bachelors who, it was thought, would make suitable husbands for the lovely debutante daughters of desperate parents. I was neither suitable or, for that matter, eligible. I was just starting in the film industry as a tea boy on the princely salary of £5 a week with no family acres behind me whatsoever. At least twice a week, I was invited to coming out balls for these girls, which meant free food and drink all through the summer season. I have to admit, I found the mums more interesting than their daughters. Not much going on here, you might think, but no, Cluny is getting all excited about its annual ham and parsley fair. I find it hard to believe that a Guinness record, however silly, had been authenticated in this little shop.
Vous êtes dans la Guinness Book of Records.
The world record jambon persillé had weighed about 500 pounds, and it was fashioned to look like a cathedral. This one looked like a rather poor reproduction of an Inca temple and a tiddler compared with the world record giant.
No?
The world record holder wouldn't tell me the weight of his mound of ham because there was the Guess Its Weight competition at the fair on Saturday with a prize of a holiday in a glamorous resort. I guessed around 200 pounds. Of course, it poured with rain on the great day. The most animated things around were these toys and the little steam engine next to the fairground. It was too wet to move this beast in its competition mode. It would have melted in the rain. The Inca temple weighed 262 pounds. I wasn't even close. The pretty little village of Vandenesse lives off the canal and supports only one shop, Monique's Grocery. Monique, a good solid Burgundian lass, a fireball of energy, with shoulders that could have launched 1,000 ships, took me on a tour of her establishment with the enthusiasm of a schoolgirl playing shops. No game, this, though. This is the real thing.
Là, on a donc des biscuits artisanales. J'ai oublié de vous présenter, on a notre saucisson.
She was especially proud of her farm sausages, which she dries in cinders.
Dans la cendre. Carrément la cendre avec le saucisson dedans. Tout ce qui se passe ici, c'est super bon. Et j'ai aussi quelque chose de super bon. C'est le jambon persillé.
As I watch Monique present more jambon persillé, I find myself wondering how much good food I'd have to eat before it actually killed me. And paraphrasing the great New Orleans jazzman's lament, ashes to ashes and dust to dust. If the women don't get you, the sausage must. One misty summer's morning, Regina and I found ourselves making our way down the beautiful River Saone. The Saone leisurely winds its way through rolling farming country along the southern edge of Burgundy. Saint-Jean-de-Lone is a famous barge town, or used to be, before the barge traffic declined. The town still clings on to its traditions, though. Every year they have the Grand Pardon, a service to bless all the boats. The barges and boats are all decorated with garlands and flags. The Milou is, of course, named after Tintin's famous dog, Milou. The Regina and I were made warmly welcome, though I could feel the Regina questioning whether it should be her being pardoned for all my mistakes or the other way about. Not everyone joined the ceremony. This family have put out their laundry instead of flags. The church barge steams its way up the Saone from Lyon with the priest to conduct the service.
tes enfants assez de foi pour témoigner de toi devant les hommes en prenant leur appui sur ta parole. Du Fils et du Saint-Esprit. Délivre-nous de tout mal, Seigneur, et donne la paix à notre temps. Par ta miséricorde,
As soon as the priest had sped past on the boat Le Rhone, Regina and I both felt sufficiently blessed to move away from the festive crowds and back into the countryside.